It's no surprise that Trump's latest interview was a disaster. His usual mix of delusion, dishonesty, and incoherence was on full display. From wanting to invade Greenland to admitting his tariffs will raise prices to completely malfunctioning when asked about Signalgate, it was a train wreck from start to finish. And let's be clear, he tricked people last time into thinking he could lower prices, but as we now see, he never planned to, and he's openly admitting it. Now, before we break down this latest mess, let's take a quick look at one of the most revealing moments from his last interview. No concern if automakers raise their prices, the president said he couldn't care less if automakers raise prices after he announced he would impose 25% tariffs on all foreign-made automobiles. Asked what his recent message was to motor industry CEOs and whether he had warned them against rising prices. Trump said the message is congratulations, if you make your cars in the United States, you're gonna make a lot of money. If you don't, you're gonna have probably come to the United States because if you make your car in the United States, there is no tariff when pressed. If he told CEOs not to raise prices as reported in the Wall Street Journal. Trump added, "No, I never said that. I couldn't care less if they raise prices because people are going to start buying American-made cars." Trump continued, "I couldn't care less. I hope they raise their prices because if they do, people are going to buy American-made cars. We have plenty." Asked if he was concerned about car prices going up. Trump said, "No, I couldn't care less because if the prices on foreign cars go up, they're gonna buy American cars." After the interview, an aide to the president followed up with NBC News to say that Trump was referring specifically to foreign cars. NBC News reported earlier this week that foreign auto parts would also be taxed at 25% if the vehicles go into or assembled domestically. Companies that import vehicles under the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement will get special consideration until the government establishes a process for levying the 25% duties according to the White House. Until that time, USMCA-compliant auto parts will remain tariff-free. The president also said the tariffs would be permanent. Trump's ignorance and indifference were on full display in that first section about tariffs. He knows they will hurt American consumers, but he doesn't care. Not surprising, coming from an out-of-touch billionaire who has no grasp of how global supply chains work. Even American-made cars rely on foreign parts, and you can't just magically build manufacturing plants overnight. But it gets even worse. He literally said he hopes prices go up. That's just insanity. And if that wasn't bad enough, the Greenland invasion talk was completely unhinged. But nothing compares to the cognitive disaster when he was asked about Signalgate, and we'll get into that next. Everything is on the table to obtain Greenland. The president on Saturday also said he absolutely had real conversations about annexing Greenland, which is currently a semi-autonomous Danish territory. We'll get Greenland, yeah, 100%. Trump said he added that there's a good possibility that we could do it without military force, but that I don't take anything off the table. So let's get this straight. Groceries, rent, gas, and cars are all more expensive, but somehow we're supposed to spend money invading Greenland. For what? Ask MAGA why, and they'll say, it's important for national security because of Russia and China. Oh, really? Then why don't they care about Ukraine, which is literally next to Russia? This is pure madness. And if you need more proof of Trump's deteriorating mental state, just take a look at this piece of the article right here. Trump said he has no plans to fire anyone following news that National Security Advisor Mike Walz added a journalist to a Signal app group chat with senior members of the Trump administration who were discussing plans to strike Houthi militants in Yemen earlier this month. I don't fire people because of fake news, not fake, and because of witch hunts. Trump said, calling the story fake news throughout the interview, I do. The president said when asked whether he still has confidence in Walz, and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who also in the Signal chat and sent a detailed timeline of the planned strikes before they happened. I think it's just a witch hunt in the fake news, like you talk about it all the time, but it's just a witch hunt and it shouldn't be talked about. Trump added, we had a tremendously successful strike. We struck very hard and very lethal, and nobody wants to talk about that, quite frankly. And they want to talk about is nonsense. It's fake news. Trump's comments come as he faced calls, including from his allies, to fire Walz. Trump also said, I have no idea what Signal is. He said, I have no idea what Signal is. I don't care what Signal is. All I can tell you is that it's just a witch hunt, and it's the only thing the press wants to talk about because you have nothing else to talk about because it's been the greatest 100-day presidency in the history of our country. So, I repeated that line twice because it's the most important part of this interview. It proves that Donald Trump had a cognitive episode right there. He doesn't know what signal is. Think about that. He's been asked about it all week. He's responded to questions about it. He's talked about it in the context of what was or wasn't shared in that chat. And yet, when asked directly, he acts like he has no idea what it is. So what's the truth? Is he pretending not to know? Was he never informed in the first place? Or is he too far gone to remember? None of these options are good, and all of them show that Trump has no grasp of what's happening in his own administration. This is the same guy who falsely claimed Marco Rubio signed the Alien Enemies Act, said "I don't know" when asked about 4 US service members found dead in Lithuania. Does he know anything? Or have the people around him realize that he's too incompetent to even be trusted with basic information? Either way, it's insanity. This is the same man who promised his amazing brain would lower prices, but instead he's letting companies screw us over while he rants about nonsense. And speaking of Trump's failure to keep manufacturing in the US, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse just went off on the same point. Watch this clip right here.
One of the keys to the Republican tax scam that is being cooked up right here in this Congress is giving big corporations the ability to move their profits and even their jobs offshore, away from America, and get a tax break for doing that. And the total value of this tax break, the award to big corporations from Republicans for moving American jobs and profits offshore, is running at about $140 billion that other taxpayers are going to have to make up. Big Pharma is the big winner in this offshore tax scam. If you look at Big Pharma's numbers, most sales are to US patients. They sell their pharmaceutical products to Americans. But when you look at their financial reporting, 75% of their profits are declared as coming from outside of the United States. So you got some funky math going on here, because we know that Americans are charged more for Big Pharma's drugs than people are overseas. They overcharge Americans. Americans pay the highest prices, and most of the sales are going to Americans who are paying the highest prices. So how is it that when most of their sales are going to Americans who are paying the highest prices, that's not where the profits are reported? The profits are reported from overseas, where they have fewer patients paying lower prices. How does that work? That works SCAM, scam. And that's what the Republicans in Congress are trying to push forward into the future. Thanks to the terrific work of our chairman, we have some specific examples. The Republican tax scam went into effect in 2017. So they had to move pretty quickly. So we're looking at now 2019. How quickly did pharma enjoy the benefit of this tax scam at Americans' expense? Well, AbbVie is one company. In 2019, it declared 3/4 of its profits, 3/4 of its sales to American customers, and essentially all of its profits offshore. They charged, as pharma does, they charged Americans the highest prices, and they sold 75% nearly of their drugs to those highly priced American customers, and yet they claimed that all of their money came from the small fraction of their sales that they made at lower prices offshore. Again, SCAM. Who gets hurt? Well, who gets hurt is American workers, because very often the jobs go offshore along with the profits. So an American worker loses his job so that an American company can move that job offshore and pay some foreign person for the work that should be here, and gets rewarded by Republicans in Congress for a tax break for doing that. Who else gets hurt? Small businesses get hurt. Because if you're running a small business, you can't set up this elaborate tax scam. You don't have the accountants, you don't have the lawyers. You may not even have the nasty motive to try to cheat your own government this way. So small businesses take it in the neck against the big businesses who can dodge their taxes through this complicated scam. And even some big American domestic companies like Rhode Island-based CVS, who are an all-American company, who don't fake their profits to be coming from Bermuda or the Cayman Islands or Singapore or wherever else.
This is just beyond frustrating. Republicans in Congress love to talk about bringing American manufacturing back, yet they won't even ensure that U.S. companies pay their fair share of taxes. They simply don't care. Trump doesn't care that tariffs are driving up the cost of your car, and he certainly doesn't care that big corporations are dodging taxes. Of course he doesn't. No surprise there. That's why it's so important to call this out, which is exactly what we do every day on this show. If you want to support that, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and if you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. See you next time.